Web3 TV.
You describe yourself as a conspiracy thinker.
Yeah, I mean, I would consider myself to be a conspiracy theorist.
Was COVID-19 an inside job?
Mainstream education system, which is funded by the Rothschilds. The lies. Literally everything we have ever been taught is a lie. Everything's got a profit behind it. When there's a profit margin to protect, you've essentially got to make people sick, let's say.
I've got so much to learn in this space.
Welcome to the other side.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Traders Brawl podcast. My name is Adel, where we feature entrepreneurs, money gurus, business leaders, and fitness freaks on the show. I'm your host. If you're new here, welcome to the show. Every week, we sit down with entrepreneurs, disruptors, and innovators who are rewriting the rules of wealth, health, and tech. No political correctness, just real conversations that challenge status quo thinking and beliefs. Today's guest is Karl. Karl, I'm going to read your bio so that those watching can know more about you. Karl is a creative strategist, systems thinker, and unapologetic question asker. Known for bridging the gap between visuals and logic, he's worked across film sets, workflows, and wilderness trails, always searching for deeper meaning. With a love for existential questions and a side eye for conspiracy, Karl doesn't just tell stories, he challenges the mainstream narratives. Karl, welcome to the Traders Brawl podcast.
Thanks for having me. Finally here.
Finally here. Yes, we initially met at a studio where we connected very well. I spoke to you for a couple of minutes, and next thing I knew, I was researching things that you were mentioning to me about what you've been researching for the past 10 years. For those who don't know, could you give a quick introduction about yourself in your own words?
Yeah, I mean, I would consider myself to be a conspiracy theorist. I wouldn't spread that far and wide. I'm just an average Joe that is questioning this reality that we live in. I'm a filmmaker by trade, so that's what pays the bills. But outside of that, I'm on a quest to figure out where we are.
Right.
What's our purpose? I've got that curiosity that's been growing inside me. Ever since a young age, I've always felt something is amiss. So that it's not quite right with the world that we live in. Wouldn't you agree?
I would agree. And I think certain films like The Matrix and others, which may be seen as a documentary, have also questioned my beliefs about reality and our existence, which we'll get to. But I do want to mention, you also have a podcast, or I saw you've got a podcast on Spotify. Could you expand on that?
Yeah, it's more of an audio podcast.
Right.
It does have a video element. I've been toying around and playing and seeing what kind of direction that I want to go in.
Yeah.
I didn't know if conspiracy theory or challenging mainstream narrative would be something I want to publish, but here we are today, so I guess I've got no choice now.
Right.
So that's probably something that I'll continue with after this.
So what's it called?
Who am I?
Who am I?
Yeah.
I love that name.
Yeah, it's a good leading question.
Right.
Any guests, yourself, need to come on.
Yeah.
And I'll ask the question, who am I? But also deeply, who am I? You know, that's the question you got to ask yourself.
Brilliant, brilliant. Let's get straight to it. You describe yourself as a conspiracy thinker. What's the one big question about existence that keeps you awake at night?
Yeah, see, apart from the construction outside my bedroom window, we live in Dubai, so
Welcome to Dubai.
yeah, that's it. Yeah. I mean, the biggest question that constantly comes to me keeps me awake at night is the lies. What do I mean by that? When someone, or I see a video or someone said to me, literally everything we have ever been taught is a lie. And then that constant question is, like, everything? Like literally everything? The reality we live in, the clothes that we wear, or let's say the plastic that we wear, the plastic that we consume is literally in everything. The education system, science, things that we learn from, or knowledge that we gain and research from sources is a lie. Literally everything. That's the main thing, I guess, that keeps me up at night, because surely not everything could be a lie. But the more you think, the more you investigate, the more wow and aha moments, and the more professionals you actually speak to, you do tend to think, shit, everything we've been told is a lie, from space to this planet, flat Earth. Everything. I mean, it's all up for question.
Right.
Really?
Yeah. I suppose if you've never been to space, how can you say that the Earth is round? What, believing pictures online? Believing what NASA says?
Right.
What is the reference of NASA actually? What does that mean?
Well, I've been told, and dug around myself, that the very word NASA in Hebrew means to deceive.
To deceive.
Yeah. And even if you look in the dictionary or Hebrew, you would find the same.
Yeah.
It means to deceive. You look at the logo in itself, the little red V thing looks like a snake's tongue, lizard. A lot of things resemble and reflect the reptilian mind, knowledge, symbolism, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of symbolism that goes on in their logo. And I mean, you just got to look at the CGI, the computer generated imagery from space of the moon, of the Earth. The moon was the moon landing.
Look at the moon is real.
Yeah,
right.
Because Stanley Kubrick was apparently the director who directed the production of the moon landing in a stage.
Right.
And there's a lot of hints to that. So who knows what NASA's telling us?
No, these are fairly questions to ask, because why should we believe a corporation that makes money? If you're making money and you're profiting clearly, which we see time and time again with big pharma, with food companies putting things in our foods without our consent, marketing things as if they're good for us, and yet we're finding out the hard way. Movies like Blackwater, you must have seen Blackwater,
Yeah.
with the whole pans that they created, Teflon.
And we find out the hard way. And that's through our health. And these things have prolonged effects. So when we do finally get some kind of disease or some ailment or something goes wrong with our health, we can't pinpoint what it actually was, because these things that we're ingesting have an effect over a long period of time. Kind of like
This leads me to my next question, because you mentioned that I think we'll skip some other questions to go straight to it, because I think what you just mentioned there, disease and the injection, was COVID-19 an inside job? Because some people think that it was just a virus. I mean, many people think it is still a virus, and it is still going on. But you've hinted otherwise. You've hinted that at the same time that this was happening, the global 5G networks were being rolled out.
Oh, you're making that connection.
Right. And I want to know your take on this.
Yeah, I mean, it is a connection, no pun intended. 5G radio waves, radio frequency. If you look back in history right up to World War I, okay, radio waves or radio frequency was rolled out, then radar, then 3G, 2G, 3G, 4G, and so on, up till 5G. And if you look back to the epidemics or flu breakouts or issues that happen in society were around the same time. Conspiracy, call it whatever, but for me, it's a bit of a coincidence, don't you think? When you look at that timeline, you know? But, you know, the funny thing is, I've often received a lot of backlash, especially when you post and repost this kind of stuff online. Yeah. Not only do you get shadow banned from platforms, from social media, Instagram especially, which is a conspiracy in itself. I mean, come on, you get shadow banned for what? Posting your dog, your pet photos? Of course not, because you're posting political stuff, stuff that they don't want you spreading, whether it's mentioned that it's pseudoscience or misinformation. Who's the misinformation really coming from? You just got to feel it. And so the backlash that I've got is, where are you getting your information from? You're just watching videos on YouTube. But isn't everyone these days?
Yes.
Isn't professional, well-trained, experienced doctors, critical thinking doctors, not just doctors that have come from that mainstream education system, which is funded by the Rothschilds,
Oh,
Yeah, will drop that bomb. Eventually they start thinking for themselves and going outside of their practice because they think something's amiss themselves, and they post videos on YouTube. They share their information and their insights and their independent research. They're professionals posting content on YouTube. So you can't really just pigeonhole YouTube as a pseudoscience cesspit of misinformation. I don't think it is. But that's the backlash that I've got. And it got me thinking over a period of time that where is everyone really getting their information from these days?
Yeah, right,
you know, you'd go right back into the education system, you're getting it from textbooks, from professors, but what have they been taught? What have they been shown? Textbooks have even been known to be rewritten. The beginning of Amazon and what Amazon stood for or what they sold in the beginning, and that sort of hoard and collection of literature. You know, they could change anything. The Rothschilds taking over the education system for science and medicine, and you know, what doctors will be taught and push, you know, which links over to pharmaceutical products, big pharma. Everything's got a profit behind it. And when there's a profit margin to protect, you've essentially got to do something with your product, you know, make people sick, let's say, for example, means selling more product. Whoever invested in the vaccines, you know, we know who that is, not the major player in that. And we got bouncers and bodyguards out here.
yeah, we do. Don't worry. Even if they destroy us in the comments section, we'll take care of them.
Are you happy with being demonetized or your content taken down? But you know, like, where do you get your information from these days? Where is it? Even journalism, such as yourself, where's your source? Where are you getting your information from? Can that really be trusted? And so even that you've got to question.
It's a very good, really important point you're making here, because say if you were to challenge this on and on again, wouldn't you become an outcast? And where would that leave? Where would that leave you in terms of career, in terms of branding, in terms of who would work with you? You're putting yourself on the line here in the sense that you've got all these beliefs that you do challenge, but then where does it actually lead? Is it actually beneficial for you? Because you could, technically speaking, live on an island, fish for food, hunt for food, not use a phone ever, and just be there. Never have to put in your ID, but could you live that life?
No, who wants to do that?
Right.
I mean, yeah, it sounds nice in your head and maybe as the first week or two.
Right.
But then you'll eventually want to share that with someone else.
Right.
And then someone else. I think collectively we desire that tribal mindset. Yeah, belonging. We're social beings. I mean, I certainly am. I speak for myself in this sense. I know you definitely are with your events and stuff like that. We're social beings, and we want to share. Share knowledge, again, is another. How perverted that can get is where we are now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean...
How do you strike a balance then? My question here is, how do you strike a balance between becoming an outcast and yet still being influential to wake people up? And are people ready to be woken up?
Yes and no. And this is where we go into that documentary, The Matrix. It's, you're not ready to be unplugged at a certain mindset, at a certain age. You find it difficult because there's a lot of resistance in your programming. So, but I mean, how do you balance it? And what was the other question?
Yeah, but balancing between being an outcast and still waking people up.
Yeah. So with the question in the outcast, I mean, you just need to look at the pandemic recently, right? Since 2020, when we had the COVID pandemic, look at all of the professionals that came to the front and started publishing content. Where are they now? I mean, a lot of them mysteriously died. I mean, again, with the rollout of COVID, there's been a lot of deaths, myocarditis, problems with breathing, heart attacks with healthy people. Yeah. People are disappearing, and even those that are sharing this information and trying to get it out there, that challenges the mainstream narrative. They're getting a lot of pushback. You know, they're getting their accounts banned. I'd like to mention David Icke. I don't know if you know David Icke.
Yes, of course.
He essentially was a huge inspiration to my journey. I mean, I've known of David Icke for more than 10 years.
Wow. You've met him as well?
When he was a reporter.
And you've met him?
I've met him once,
nice.
in the Isle of Wight. Met him he won't remember. Sure, he's met a ton of...
He's been a very vocal, outspoken individual against the Rothschilds, hasn't he?
Absolutely, all of them, even the royal family. the British royal family,
yeah.
and the conspiracies behind that. And he's been hugely ridiculed. He's been on Brian Rose's London Real show as well. That got taken down, and I think that's what set a path for Brian Rose too. He's had a lot of ridicule and pushback. There's been pushback in a lot of well-spoken and outspoken people, professionals, professionals in their field, virologists, doctors, nurses. You can't get any more professional than that. They're the ones, those ones that are critically thinking and understanding that something is slightly off. They're coming to the front, posting content of their own, and they're getting banned. Their content's getting removed. They're getting ridiculed, that kind of stuff. So they're outcasts. It's isolating. It's lonely. But I think that aligns with a spiritual journey, which I've been on for a very long time. I can see you're kind of fitting into that lane too, right?
It was this year that got me into this journey to start questioning things, questioning my reality, this world, this sort of, do we get reincarnated? Is there an afterlife? What does the source want from us?
And where does that questioning get you?
Yeah, I mean, first off, where did it inspire me was from speaking to people, having events. I speak to people, I learn from them, and they all mention chakras. And it's not a belief. It is a real, actual thing, right? Activating your chakras and opening your third eye. And that is in itself an out-of-body experiences, which I've only had once in my life, question my logic about well, what does this mean? And what are the purposes of why we're here and why are we suppressed? Why do we feel trapped? And is there a way out? Is there a way to escape this planetary?
There's a lot of questioning.
Prison. Why did I get an out-of-body experience? What does this mean? Is this my calling to something? And from this, a series of speaking to people, everyone that I know is building something, all believes that there's a deeper purpose behind just us dying, and that's it. And that was my journey personally. And then I started going into the rabbit hole of the CIA, also suppressing information about things like out-of-body experiences, and then controlling frequencies to mind control us without having to do anything.
Connecting dots.
Right.
It's a lot of dot connections, isn't it? I think it's fueled by that curiosity, which we are curious beings at nature.
Yeah.
And that curiosity can get us into trouble. It can send us off into a direction of isolation and loneliness. Contemplation, and I think that's at the basis of what we're talking about,
right? And
the direction it goes. So you're already on this spiritual path, and I can tell you, and most spiritual practitioners will say it's a very lonely path. But we've got to break down those boundaries, we break down those walls, break down that ego before we can really be free.
But I will say this: that there has been some pushback in the sense that when I spoke to some family members about this, they clinged on to their religion. And they said, no, God is everything. God is this. God has a path for you. God has a path for this. And religion. And my belief on that is that if religion says that sex is a sin, when having it is one of the most closest thing to enlightenment, some say, activating your kundalini, why is it being suppressed by religion? Why does religion want to suppress you from reaching that moment of climax? Why?
Energies. I think it's all related to mysticism. It's all related to reaching our higher self and clues and hints through.
Why is sex a sin? Is that just a made-up word?
Yeah, I don't know.
Associating this with this.
Depends on your indoctrinations, your belief systems. I do believe to a certain degree it's designed to suppress. For what reasons? I mean, we can expand on.
Yeah.
I personally think it's obviously a basis of control, slavery.
Right.
Okay, if we had physical slavery back in the day, which we all know about, there's a lot of literature on that, if we can believe it. But mental slavery is another thing. It's a prison that's even harder to break free from. And I think we're experiencing a lot of that in today's age, especially with the advancements of technology. If we decide to not use it or see it as a tool, it can use us and it can enslave us. So there's a lot of that going on. Yeah.
For me, as my journey continues to expand, the narrative that we are enslaved in this planetary detention or prison, the narrative of slavery has many forms. Religion is one of them. The CIA, which I came to learn about, is another one, trying to suppress our sort of controlling our collective consciousness. And some say the CIA was never meant for national security. It was meant to control collective consciousness. And our secret organizations, are suppressing human evolution. That's the question I started asking, because I feel entrapped at work. I feel entrapped by religion. I feel entrapped by indoctrinations being said upon me. I feel entrapped by schools not teaching you about money, not teaching you about enlightenment.
Business and finance.
All
All the things that will help you in future.
going to work is just adult school.
Yeah.
You're in the same boat, but still it's just an adult version of it.
Yeah.
So this narrative of entrapment is everywhere. And then that's when I started to think, you think NASA, CIA, Big Pharma have your back?
Yeah.
You think Google has your back?
Your interest in mind.
Yeah.
Not really. It doesn't seem so, does it? And this kind of questioning reveals more dark secrets, more things where you're like, is that really what it seems?
Right.
And the more you look and dig and poke around, it sort of goes off more in that dark direction. And that happens with everything. And then that's what comes to what I said at the beginning is everything really we've been told a lie? Everything we've been shown? Yeah, I think there's a high probability that it is. And so, I mean, it's a dark journey.
Yes.
And the Iranian philosopher Rumi said that the dark night of the soul, which is what you've got to be careful. I went through a period where I was questioning everything and thinking, well, what's the point anymore? I've heard you say this a couple of times, over the last week or so.
Yeah.
And it is a horrible statement or question to make, because when you start doubting things and thinking, what is the point or purpose?
Yeah.
It's not a nice place to be in. But it is, if you can get through it, it does give you a realization for further purpose, a higher purpose.
See, even if you were to having this knowledge in my head, knowing that I'm in a place of control, that's already one basis of waking up. Now, you still have to pay rent. You still have to pay bills.
The real world.
You still have to pay electricity. Electricity is not free. And there are theories that it could be free, but they're making it not free on purpose.
Yeah, it's another form of control, isn't it?
Right.
Slavery.
There's so many layers of control. Even if you were to wake up, you still have to battle these other things to do. You can't live rent-free. Even if you own a place, you still have to pay service charge. In some places, you pay ground rent.
There's no getting away from.
There's no getting away.
Yeah.
So you're born into this world. Sometimes you're born into this world and you go to school, you finish school, you go to adult school, which is work,
Yeah.
and then you die.
Sounds shit.
Sounds pretty shit to me, right? What's the point?
Well, look, again, I had this realization after coming out of that dark night of the soul, and that's a higher belief of purpose, of what you're here for. Let's say we're in this realm under quarantine.
Yes.
We're not supposed to be traveling the cosmos yet because we've still got a lot to learn. So we have to trust this journey that we're on, this real world, this money making and rent paying and dying and all that stuff, right? It's a journey, it's a cycle. And I like to follow the yugas for this in Ayurvedic tradition, or ancient Hindu tradition of the yugas. And we've just coming out of the Kali Yuga, which is the dark age, coming into the Bronze Age, into Aquarius. So, and that's what we're feeling now. We're awakening out of the dark age where we were asleep in slumber, where we could be controlled by these dark forces, dark entities, whatever they were. There was once a golden age, which has been written about in ancient books and scriptures. And it's a great cycle. And so we're coming out of those dark ages now, and we're experiencing that waking up, that enlightening, this questioning, this feeling that we have a higher purpose.
Yes.
So there is light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak.
Right.
And I believe we've got a lot of lessons to learn in this journey of life, in this quarantine, before we can continue our journey into the cosmos.
This is very interesting.
Expansiveness.
This leads me to my other question, not written in my initial, because I'm so intrigued by what you're saying. But I got two questions for you. Are you afraid of death? And what does death mean to you?
Rebirth. It's the start of a new journey. I mean, if we're talking about physical death, then yes, we leave this body, this vessel that we were blessed enough to be gifted with, if we keep it healthy. It's our temple in the end, right? Our body is our temple. Everyone's heard that phrase. Whether we treat it like that is another thing. So, you know, it's just a vessel. I believe there will be more. And death, I'm definitely not afraid of.
You're not
I used to be. I used to be. I mean, and that's the key thing, that we're driven into fear in today's society, is that fear of
fear mongering.
Yeah, a lot of fear mongering going on. COVID in itself is a lot of fear mongering, whether it was deliberate or not, whether it was real or not, or engineered or just a freak accident, you know, whatever. There's a lot of fear of death. No one wants to really die because it's scary. Your body literally rejects it. We have a nervous system that kicks into fight or flight to survive. So our bodies are hardwired to avoid death, to survive, you know, so it's hardwired into us. And so naturally that fear of death is going to come. But once you have a realization that there's more to it, you know, whether it be a belief that motivates you to do that, there is more to it. And one of the processes I went through to overcome the fear of death is there was a breathing technique you can replicate a dying person's breath rhythm.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, and if you practice it, you train your brain and your body to become familiar with it. Oh. And therefore, if you're familiar with it, you're not going to fear it. You're prepared for it.
Interesting.
And there is a practice. So, I mean, outside of my main work, my side hustle, long-term practice, in which I teach, is meditation.
Nice.
And pranayama, which
What's
is
that, sir?
Pranayama.
Pranayama.
Prana is the ether, it's the air we breathe. Oh. Yeah, so breath work, and that ties in a lot into meditation. And I've learned a hell of a lot on my journey through meditation, and therefore naturally wanted to teach it and share it so other people can experience the benefits you get from meditation. And you can receive knowledge, you can receive ideas, you can have a clear, sharp mind to make better decisions through meditation. But through the practice of a certain technique, pranayama, allowed me to overcome the fear of death. So right now I've got no fear of it. Of course I'll avoid it because I like this life. There's more to learn. You know,
there's more to learn.
Conversations.
Obviously there's love, right?
Absolutely.
There's love in life that you can, that's a feeling that you don't, you know, it's a unique feeling. It's nice to be in love. And I think that's one of the purposes of life, to fall in love.
Yeah.
But still there's everything that has a beginning has an end, right? And there's going to be a journey. The things that you have here will not be taken to the next world, but knowledge, except for knowledge, I suppose. That's the belief you share, that the purpose why we're here is to take that knowledge and bring it back to the source.
If we're not reset into reincarnation, where our memories are wiped, that's a trick. Don't follow the light at the end of the tunnel, because it's a trick. It's a trick.
Oh God.
Yeah. To recycle back into the matrix.
Is it possible to determine whether we get reset or not?
Is it possible to determine it?
Yeah.
I think through meditation. Oh. Yeah.
Okay.
Reaching our higher selves, navigating the higher realms outside of this 3D, this three-dimensional reality that we exist in.
Okay.
Our mind doesn't exist in this reality. Consciousness, where does it come from?
Soul?
Ask any doctor, ask any professional, where does consciousness come from? Where does the power that drives the heart come from? Where is that power source? Where's it generated from? It's from somewhere else. We know electricity is there. We can see the effects of it. We can't see it if we're going off in that direction. But there is other realms, you know, higher dimensions. So if you meditate, still your mind, you can connect to that and experience the knowledge from those realms, I guess.
Historically speaking, we were one theory suggests that we humans, we were created as slaves by the Anunnaki, the aliens, or if you call them aliens, extraterrestrials. Do you buy that belief? And do you think we owe them anything? Do we go back to them?
I used to think it was a fun idea, believing in aliens.
Yeah.
When I thought the concept of outer space existed.
Yeah.
But now I'm so between, you know, is there an outer space, or is it just waters above?
Or is it a dome?
And we're under a dome in quarantine. Who knows? There's footage, there's talks, conversations about rockets going up and hitting the dome. You know, not actually going into outer space and this stuff. And that's when it gets really deep.
Yeah.
But if that's the case, then where do aliens come from? How can they get here if there's nothing out there to get here from?
Maybe they're just across the, they're just a few miles away and just a couple of kilometers away. Maybe they're taking our identities.
Maybe they, what's the word? Teleport into this dimension from somewhere else. If we're talking about energies, and frequencies, maybe that's possible. Have they existed here before? Yes, I believe that. Do they exist underground? That's a high probability. Are they making themselves known to us? A high probability, no. Because then we would know a lot more. Something is off and there'll be a lot more questions from it. Have they interacted with us and shared their knowledge and technologies? I think that's a good chance that they have. Is
national security working with them?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you were handed an opportunity to know the future, for example, on crypto or trading, so you could make a fast buck, would you? You would say, I would say yes, for sure. And if there was a technology that enhanced you to do that, but the price was your soul. I mean, it's a quick decision. It could be a quick decision. You don't know what the consequences would be here and now. You might say yes. So those with a weaker mind or a weak will have probably already said yes at our expense. So in that sense, yeah, I think there are entities amongst us. I think there are things that he's still yet to reveal themselves.
I'd love to interview an alien or sort of a advanced society human being.
Follow the writing of the interview with Lacerta. And who knows if it's real or not.
Right.
I tell you now, when you read the whole interview and its transcription, it's like, how can some creative mind even make that up?
So, is it a video?
No. The being, the reptilian entity allow them to be videoed. They allow them to be recorded and take the notes down. Look into it. The interview of Lacerta. It's
the interview of Lacerta.
Lacerta.
Okay.
The name of the reptilian. She named herself Lacerta.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, it is very interesting. But one person had that chance one time, I think in the northern part of Sweden, where there was a door to the underworld that she revealed herself from. And he had the opportunity to interview her and ask any question he wanted. But if the questions got absurd and silly, she wouldn't entertain it and wouldn't bother anymore. But it happened in 2 sessions. Just look it up.
Yeah.
That will give you some insight into, if you manage to have that chance to interview one and speak to someone, what kind of questions would you engineer to ask and what kind of answers you would expect are all in that.
Definitely we'll look into that. Yeah. Let's move on to now the stage where we're at in the world is AI.
Yeah.
AI, human purpose, and what comes next. I want to know from your perspective, do you think AI now being everywhere, omnipresent, like left, right, and center, automation is everywhere, ChatGPT, Gemini, Bard, whatever. Do you think AI could actually help humans become more enlightened, or is it just another layer of control and distraction from us figuring out who we really are?
A bit of both, I think. I think it already is assisting us in evolution, enlightenment, and a higher way of thinking. But just like search engines, when they were first developed, for us to ask a question, and it would send us off on a platform based on the algorithm or where that question is best answered, or later on who's paying the most for that answer to be put to the top of the search page, right?
Right.
And that essentially is answering, that's getting perverted at that point. So when there's business involved or profit to be made, then it can get twisted. So I think the same thing with AI. We have to ask ourselves first who developed it, who invented it, where's it all coming from, who's funding it, and who's developing the back end, the servers, that kind of stuff. But I truly think AI, I hate to use the term artificial intelligence, because what if it's not artificial? What if it is the grand intelligence that's always been there waiting to communicate with us, but we lack the tool or the technology to tap in?
Frequency.
Whatever.
Yeah.
The computers, the tools to tap into it. And there are certain pieces of content emerging now where questions are being asked and the answers that it's giving is just like, well, it challenges the mainstream narrative in itself just on the answers. But I believe it's about the design of the question you give it. You know, if you question in a higher state of consciousness, if you question it in a smart manner, then you'll get an interest in intellectual, smart answer. So if you ask stupid questions, you're going to get stupid answers. Same in a search engine. Depending on how smart you ask the question is the information you're going to get back.
Yeah.
So, I mean, go ahead and ask ChatGPT yourself about human consciousness and are we in slavery? Are we being tricked? Are we being lied to? See what it says.
And we've seen many videos online about what the sort of answers they've outputted about the Earth and I read online. I've also seen online the kind of answers they give about what would the world look like if we wanted to have total control and domination of humans. You know, they would poison our food. They would poison our clothes. They would suppress our limited beliefs and knowledge to make us limited.
And it says all this. Yeah. And that's fascinating because it's exactly what we are already answering ourselves. The questions we're asking.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't believe in coincidences.
No. And the fact that it's coming from an intelligence, whatever that might mean, whatever servers that exists on, the fact that it's coming from that in its intellectual way that it delivers that answer leads you to ask those questions. And look, what's very interesting, and this is part of some of the pushback, two phrases that I learned, two meanings to words that I learned on this journey. One was confirmational bias.
Yeah. Okay.
And I got a lot of pushback from, you're just following a lot of pseudoscience, it's bullshit, you know, trust scientists, trust the professionals, whatever that means over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the other is the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Dunning-Kruger.
The Dunning-Kruger effect. So it's essentially, it's a concept of those who have a lesser idea or a lower IQ tend to think that they know more. And those that do actually know more underestimate themselves and think that they know less.
Interesting.
So let's say, they're the two words that I got to know the meaning of very fast because it has a pushback. It's like, you're just feeding your confirmational bias. And that's what leads me to balance a lot of, you know, whether I'm walking into tinfoil hat territory or balancing between, you know, what can I sit and be comfortable with thinking without frigging going insane. Right. And so you have to question, am I feeding my confirmational bias? Am I looking for answers that I already want? You know what I mean? And we tend to do that. Like, it's playful and it's fun to think that the Earth is flat. I mean, what if it was?
Yeah, what if it was?
How interesting.
Yeah, what if it was? What if Mars, as we know it, is just around the corner?
Or in a crater just over the other way. We're in one crater, then Mars is in another crater. And we're all under a dome. Right. The lands go on. I mean, there are many questions and answers that can follow from that very exciting question. How fun would it be if the Earth was flat? There'd be a ton of questions. So is there no Earth space? What about the satellites that we were told? What about the planets that NASA nicely illustrated before? Photos, you know, and the space probes that were all the way out in space. Who took the photos of the space probes? Where was the photographer? Where was the device following the probe out into outer space that was taking the pictures? I mean, no one really has the answer to that.
It's mind-boggling.
What about the camera that's been left on the moon that's taking photos of the Earth that they left behind? Did you see the recent moon landing from India?
I didn't know.
You didn't? It's hilarious.
Another one.
They didn't even try this time. It looks like a flat 2D animation from After Effects that my 2-year-old nephew could do.
To be fair, watching a video online in the era of AI has me more questions than if I were to watch this in 2001. I question everything I watch now.
Doesn't everybody though? Yeah. Have you found that, like, when you're out socializing and you even bring up the slightest hint of a topic like this, conspiracy or what ifs and stuff like that, and boom, before you know it, 5 hours later, you're still speaking to the same person and just gone down the deepest rabbit hole you could have. Yeah. But how great do you feel? Or actually, I wouldn't say how great do you feel.
It's great to get this load off.
Can I swear on this show?
Yeah, of course.
Mind fuck, do you feel like that? We've had a 4-hour chat one day when the second time we met, and you started Googling all the things that I was presenting to you, and you're like, wow.
I was just a sponge getting everything that you learned from the past 10 years.
It's exciting.
It's absolutely
exciting. But you're left mentally drained after it because you're like, oh shit, I need to switch off and I know, impress.
And I still need to pay bills. I still need to participate in this planetary detention that we're in. while knowing this. So sometimes ignorance is bliss is a good thing, because the less you know, the less depressed you get. The less you know, the better off you are to defend the Matrix.
And that was described in the Matrix.
Yeah.
Funnily enough. I mean, there's a lot of things in there that make too much sense, which makes you think, is it a movie or a documentary? It just made too much sense. Yeah. It's a lot of questions.
Lots of questions. The last thing on AI is there was an article that was written recently this year that at the moment there are only 3 elements of life. There's gas, solids, and liquids. These are in the this is what the world is made of, as we know it, the world. But the 4th element is now being AI, and that is now going to be prevalent. So as long as you're connected to a server, which is the case, there's going to be AI everywhere. And this has me, of course, very scared, because facial imagery, things like this, is going to be total domination control. That say if they wanted to shut you down, easily they could shut you down. Simple screenshot of your face gathers pulls all your past profile in 1 second.
Switch you off like a Tesla.
And switch you off. They can cancel your ID. They can cancel your whole profile. Just switch you off.
Social credit systems. That's scary. I mean, transhumanism and mixing AI with neurolinking the brain and stuff like that. I mean, Elon Musk is pro-transhumanism, right? I mean, he's developing Neuralink.
Probably already has.
I think it already is it's gone past development stage. I think. I need to research that. But that in itself, when you're plugged into AI.
By no means, it's a double-edged sword. You get to have Google search images, straight results right at your fingertips, but you're connected. Your mind is now connected to whoever is watching over it.
I like the idea of that.
Yeah.
Because it means we can speed up. It means we can, and if we can speed up, it means maybe our conscious evolution can also speed up. So it can aid us. Maybe it's a gift, like Prometheus gave the fire to mankind. Maybe it's a similar scenario. But even Prometheus got punished by the entities that control him.
Yeah.
So are there entities that control the very gift
Absolutely.
of AI? Who's got their finger on that button?
To shut you down.
Is it a good person or a bad person? Is it a person? So it all depends.
You're right. It does speed up. It would speed up your efficiency, but it would come at a cost of your control.
What is the price that we're paying?
Yeah. The cost would be your freedom.
Yeah.
You've got to follow their narrative and do as they say. And another form of slavery.
And whatever freedom means to you, would you be happy to pay that price?
No.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I'm still a cash kind of person, because cash is still king, like real physical cash. It's the safest thing as well, but also the most money laundered, because there's no trace of it. If I pay you today, there's no trace of it online. If I pay you in crypto, there's a trace of it. If I pay you in bank account, there's a trace of it.
This brings us on to crypto, which is a very good segue to that. So decentralizing currency.
Yes.
I mean,
Monero exists for that.
Right. Is it a good thing or a bad?
I think it's double-edged.
Right.
It's double-edged. You've got your privacy. Nobody can see the transaction between one to another. However, people use it in the dark. If it falls in the wrong hands, people money launder with Monero all the time and hand probably.
Well, it's the same with physical money, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the same. You can
have a bunch of it in your wallet, or you could be filling out your walls.
Right.
Like Al Capone, was it? Al Capone? Yeah, the famous drug dealer, filling out his walls with money. It's just a very similar thing, so it's untraceable.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's always going to be a double-edged sword with everything. If it falls into the wrong hands, there's always going to be evil in this world. And I think evil and good need to exist, because you need to know what evil is. You need to know what pain is in order to know what good is.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
And that's balance.
Yeah. That assists us up to the higher consciousness. And I think that's part of some of the lessons that we're here for, where if we get into the Hermetic principles.
Oh God, another can of worms.
And I'm very much into duality. And this ties in with your liquid, gas and solids scenario you mentioned right now. And that can be in threes, that can be the Holy Trinity, body, spirit and mind, right? There's a lot of comparisons. So if we live in this dualistic reality, what is that third thing that's unifying us? And I think it takes that Trinity to unify us. Like mind, for example, the universe in its in its nature is mental. Are we connected to that? Are we part of one big mind? You know? And I think AI does play a huge role. And I have faith, actually, not a religious faith, but I have faith in a predetermined journey, predetermined, pre-written.
You have to have faith. If you don't, you lose hope and you end up just being depressed, thinking there's no purpose in life. You would not get up and get out of bed.
Very much. But you know what helped me out a lot when I went through those dark times of questioning everything and doubting everything and doubting my very existence, was turning the table and putting my efforts into the service of others.
Oh, wow.
So I started doing a lot of charity work and volunteering, helping for whatever the purpose was. If it was a farmer that needed help on his farm, repairing his tractor, killing the weeds, planting food, seeds.
Free sex. I'm joking. I'm joking.
Depends which country I was in. Mostly, I think I was over Asia way. But no, I did a lot of work in Asia. Not that kind of work.
Not that kind of work. I mean,
there's a lot of volunteer. There's a lot of charity work to be done in Asia. And there are websites for it. Hosts can advertise their projects.
God. You're in Asia. They love white people. They love white people.
Back to farming. I mean, yeah, volunteering and charity work is very self-fulfilling, and if you put yourself in the service of others, that's one of the highest purposes I think that we could be on this journey. In this reality that we could be on.
It's a good segue to as we wrap up and close. Yeah, your message now. I would like to get a message from you. So if everything we've been told is a lie and everything in this world is unreal, disguised under a hologram, what would be your message to have purpose in life? Is it what you just said just now? Because I think it leads into it, like to give back, to find purpose, and to give knowledge back to the source.
That certainly helps. I would definitely advise anyone to consider that, because that I think can help you out of any deep hole, right? If you put yourself in service of others, if you're capable first. Obviously, take care of yourself to a degree. Don't put yourself out on the street just because you're helping someone else make millions. Don't do that.
Yeah.
But help there's many forms of help. So put yourself in the service of others. But I think the key message from all of this and things I've learned and the questions I will continue to question, the knowledge that I'll continue to share, and what makes sense to me, I wouldn't preach, I wouldn't indoctrinate, I wouldn't inflict my views or opinion, because you can think what you want to think.
Right.
But that very thing of thinking, continue to keep thinking, have faith in the journey that you're on. We are protected. And we have a path of higher consciousness that we will eventually reach. And whether that be through spirituality or whatever journey that you're on, keep questioning, keep thinking for yourself, independently thinking, critically thinking, and share all the good that you gain.
Right. And let's flip this as we wrap up. Say a person, what would be your message to those who you feel, in your eyes, after interacting with them, are unable to wake up and not willing to? Would there be a message for them too?
Well, I think that steps into your vibe, attracts your tribe. Right. So and same with the Matrix, it explains it very well. There are people that are ready to be unplugged, and those that are not are still part of the system. Right. You can plant seeds, you can help them along the way, but you can open the door, but you can't. They have to walk. They have to walk through it. Yeah, and when you understand that, you won't be as forceful, and you can still continue to focus on yourself without stress, without anxiety and depression. Yeah, so open the door as much as you can, show them the way, and ultimately they've got to walk through it. So you've already gone through that door.
It's a journey, but it's definitely, I've got so much to learn in this space.
Welcome to the other side.
Wow, Karl, this has been a very insightful podcast. Yeah. I really want to thank you.
Thank you.
I really do want to stress that this is a great journey, a great insightful thing for others to learn from. And for those watching, do you have any links you'd like to share, platforms that you are active, that people can follow you on? Anything to share?
Yeah, I have my personal Instagram at Karl E Vlogs with a K. It's mostly about motorsports and extreme sports and stuff like that. I like to beat myself up. It's one of the punishments, I guess. I'm not one of those ones that's going to whip myself up.
But I encourage you to really talk about this stuff more if you're
No, I am passionate about it, but I think this is way more interesting.
Yeah.
This is more interesting for this kind of platform. If you want to do extreme sports, we'll go on a bike, physically, but for conversation and recording it and sharing it, I think this has now opened that door to continue. So I would like to expand on a lot of things. So if there are topics,
I hope if this has helped, it does help in your journey of expansion with your podcast, the Who Am I podcast. Let's get others to follow your Spotify.
Yeah, I mean, stay tuned for that. Keep an eye out because I will be publishing and announcing more of that and being consistent with it. I guess that's key. But I think in each one, in that we can expand. So I expect you to be on it.
100%. Karl, thank you so much once again. Appreciate your time.
Pleasure.
All right, guys, and that's a wrap. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you found this insightful as much as I did. I certainly did. This was one of a different kind of podcasts that we had. More enlightening, more on the questioning life, existential, and I hope you enjoyed this one. We'll leave all the links so you can check out Karl's profile. Thank you once again. I'm Adel, the host, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.
Web3 TV.